Thank you very much, Mr. Abderazzak, for this very important introduction. We now go to questions, either from the audience here in the room or people online. So, Bill?
I have about five.
Five questions.
I'm going to ask one. Ask one and then we'll go around and
Okay.
you come back to me. How is this similar and different from the Ben Ali era? You know, we often hear in Washington that, you know, there's still democracy in Tunisia, but it's backsliding. But, you know, I lived in Tunisia in the 90s and the 2000s. This feels worse. You know, Ben Ali didn't rule by decree. Ben Ali didn't fire judges. So could you compare, you know, what's better, what's worse, what's different about this situation legally, you know, in terms of the judiciary versus the Ben Ali era?
Sure. If I try to compare Ben Ali, I think he tried to respect the institutions, but he used the justice, for example, to gold, marqué des buts, to score. So against his opponent. But Ben Ali has limits. He limits because he have institutions, experts with him, which consult him, advised him. So it's not the same. This what is doing now, CSID. It's his. He has a project in his mind. He has a project, as you know, it's a project he teamed as the project of Gaddafi. He believed in the people decided themselves. He believed in the power of the people, and he don't believe in the institution. For example, he's now he's trying to eliminate the parties. As you know, he did an electoral system, which the parties hasn't a role in the elections. So he has an idea which is not the preoccupation of the Tunisian. The preoccupations of Tunisia are social, economic, and I recognize that the political hasn't helped to fix it. The attention, all the attention on the economic and social problems. So they go in confrontation, ideological confrontations about a plate of Islam, about ideological about ideology. So the political also has as you know the image of the political are you see it through the debate in the parliament. You know, the debate in the parliament was transferred directly by the TV, and the people are seeing how the parliamentary was sometimes, not all times, because all times they are fighting. It's not the truth. So
but there were people also who did that on purpose to
sort of agent
provocateur to destroy the image of the parliament and of democracy.
Yes, he worked.
Look at all this fighting.
So Said works on these images, and also he used popular speech such as, you know, me, I don't like rich people. And rich people for him are bad. Because he considers that they are corrupted. That's why they are rich, for example. And when he decided to dissolve the High Judiciary Council, he began this by a campaign against judges, qualified them as corrupted and as a criminal, and asked in the official speech in the Council of the Minister. He addressed a speech to the people to ask them to help him in dissolving the Judiciary Council and in dismissing for his decision, dismissed 57 of judges.
Could I ask a follow-up on his
Sure.
project? So this is my second question. How is he as a constitutional lawyer? We know that he helps defend Ben Ali in the early 90s. We know that when he lectures US politicians on New York law or Connecticut law, he gets it wrong. We know he doesn't understand habeas corpus and he draws the wrong conclusions about the Civil War to make autocratic conclusions, and that he spent twice as much time teaching a misinterpretation of American law in his lecture at University of Tunis than he spent teaching all of the constitutions of Europe, twice as much on a misreading of American. So our perspective is he's a terrible constitutional lawyer. What's your perspective on his understanding of constitutional law?
Let's get something clear. First of all, he's not a full professor.
Yes.
You know,
He's a
this
lecturer.
is a lecturer. He's an assistant
He didn't
professor.
finish his PhD.
He never finished his PhD and he never became a full professor. Assistant is basically like a graduate student.
I've been a lecturer and I was good.
Yeah, but he's not a professor because
Yeah.
sometimes they say he's a professor of
Yeah.
law.
And I've had bad full professors. You're right.
Yeah.
And it's right to point out the qualifications, but does he even understand constitutional law? Or is he just an ideologue using constitutional law?
I think
to have a
that
vision, utopian vision or something.
I think that everybody was surprised by the project of CSID. I think even that before his election, he talked about his project.
Yeah.
So after his election, everybody was surprised. And he remember that he do a declaration which talk about his project. But now, as you say, game is over, because when we talk without our friends, they ask us that Said is popular, and so what he's doing is good for the country. But now, after the election, the result of the last election, I think that game is over. And
does he even understand what a constitution is? Does he understand democracy? I mean, just the basics of democracy. Does he understand?
He has an idea which seemed to the project of Gaddafi. Gaddafi, لجان شعبية, popular committee.
We don't consider Gaddafi a constitutional lawyer or knowledgeable about democracy. So,
Exactly.
so would you say he's a disaster as a constitutional lawyer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oui. Yes. So
Any other questions?
I have a question going back to this past electoral event, and it's an honest question. I'm not trying to take a position here, but we know that the turnout was abysmal. It was one of the worst, I think the worst in African electoral history.
Second worst in the world.
In the world, at least recorded.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the leap. Don't we have to be careful of the leap that because there was low turnout, that is a referendum on Said himself and his popularity, I guess you could make the argument that it was about people not caring about this. That doesn't mean that they aren't supportive or want to see.
But
things
this,
move.
Jeffrey, this
No
is
can-
the
may have
project.
been the candidates may have been about based on previous parliaments. I just think that we have to be careful. We face this in lots of places where there were boycotts and assumptions that low turnout is equated with the boycott. And therefore there is a mass change of opinion or movement. And so that's my question.
NDI polling?
What's that?
NDI polling?
We don't have polling on this, no, and certainly not that quickly.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my question is, don't we have to what do we make that assumption, or do we risk ascribing a false connectivity to popularity in the direction that it's going relative to one event?
فهمت السؤال؟ يعني هل لو تورناوت هذه ال 10 ولا 11% مش بالضروره تمثل النزول الشعبيه بتاع قيس سعيد. ميبي هو ما زالت عنده شعبيه كرئيس والناس ما حبوش يشاركوا خاطر ما يؤمنوش بالبرلمان ولا يعتبروا البرلمان ما شافوش مرشحين باهين يعني ولا الكوره ولا اسباب اخرى. يعني هل مش بالضروره انه الشعبيه
I don't think that that's what the partisans of Qais Said said. But the truth is that Qais Said has lost his legitimacy and his legality. And we are expected, all body is expected for these results, disastrous results of the election. So I think that for him, the game is over. And he has to leave.
Because this, Jeffrey, is the project of Qais Said. What they are boycotting or what they boycotted now is what he's been calling for. And this is, it was meant to legitimize, his approach to governance and his constitution and all that. So
And
when
the most dangerous thing is that the world doesn't understand the message of Tunisian people. The message of Tunisian people, I think, is clear. Qais Said has to leave, and he lost his legitimacy. And the most dangerous thing is that we'll go directly for a civil war, because he's always asking to his supporters to defend his project, and they are a minority of. In fact, his supporters are a minority, and this minority are very dangerous. They are very dangerous. So I think that we haven't to give the result of the election, of the last election. I think that we have to give the result of the election the importance. For us, it's very important things for the future of Tunisia.
yes, Manjib.
I think the point that Jeff you raised is an excellent point, and it makes us actually evaluate these numbers for what they are. If we were in a situation where we have a constitution that everybody agrees on, we have an electoral law that was passed by everybody, and then we have an election where people chose for political reasons to boycott, and then we can make this point, and I think it's correct to make that it's not a referendum on the president because his name is not on the ballot. However, I think in specifically this election, we are running on a constitution that he wrote. We are running using a law that he wrote. We are using a system that he chose, a system that only allows the people that he's okay with to run.
That excludes political
That excludes everybody. So yes, these results are a referendum on not his name as a president, but his entire project. That the Tunisian people said, we are not buying this. This is not how we want to be governed. This is not how we want to go. This direction has failed, just like the Carter Center has put it very plainly and clearly that this roadmap has failed and we need a new one. That should be very clear to anybody and everybody that's looking at this election. Yes, this election did not say that the opposition is great, did not say that we're going to choose Najib Shabi or Abir Musi or anybody else. They did not say that. Absolutely, I agree with you, and we need to make that clear. For us to be able to know what does the Tunisian people want, I think we need to give them another chance. I think we need to level the playing field, have everybody run on a platform that we all agree on, and at least overwhelming majority agrees on, with an electoral law that opens the doors for everybody to run equally.
Framework, not a platform.
A framework, absolutely, yeah, in terms of the constitution, laws, whatever it is, at least that the Tunisians feel that they're not excluded, that the law is not against them. Then we can say where the Tunisian people want to go, who do they want to be governed with.
If I can add one point, I think this helps the discussion. Policy of people, like who you put in a job has a lot to, and it's we equate in U.S. politics often between people in politics. In the North African context, in the same vein, we talk about Zionism, right? And each party, each organization, the presidency itself is the Zai, right? And anecdotally, as I talked to a lot of pro-Kais Said Tunisians, they keep saying, we agreed with July 25th, we don't like this guy, we have the wrong guy. And when they say the wrong guy in the Zionist context, they're also saying we don't like any of his policies. So now there's an equation between him and the project. And totally, that's why I'm asking about polling. I've met very, very few Kais Said supporters or apologists in the CSO community who are saying, let's give him another chance. Nobody's saying that. So that.
But also to be honest about it, I think it's a rejection of Kais Said. It's also a rejection of everybody else. That's what we have. Yeah, so that's the crisis. The nature of the crisis is that there is no agreement on anybody, on any individual or any party, or so it's a disappointing situation. People are disappointed that democracy in their eyes has not delivered the results that they expected. Tunisians expected after 10 years that the situation would be much, much better, both politically, but especially economically. And I think it's fair to say that the pandemic, COVID, had a lot to do with it. That 2020, 2021 were very, very difficult years in Tunisia. I was there in those 2 years, and people were really suffering. The economy in 2020 dropped by about 10%. So that's
plus supply chain, plus Ukraine war and the food crisis.
Exactly, and then it got worse with other things. Tourism was basically dead for 2 years, and we know that 400,000 people work in the tourism industry. Most of them were fired; they couldn't work. So the situation was dire before July 25, and that's why people were hoping that, hey, maybe he's the savior, maybe he has a plan, maybe he can save the economy and put us back on the right track, and also fighting corruption and other problems. But I think now the judgment is very clear that he doesn't have a plan, and that he doesn't know what he's doing, and that the situation is much worse today than it was even July 25, economically and socially and in every aspect, and especially politically. So I think now there is an agreement that this guy has got to go. His project is over. He doesn't have a plan, and his plan is not working and is destroying the country. But there is no alternative yet. And I think that's what's missing in Tunisia right now. I don't know if you can speak about that, Abderazzak. What is the alternative? What is the solution to get out of this crisis? What does the opposition propose?
First, I would like to do a remark to our friends that as the situation of the country is not clear, I mean political, the political situation is not clear. We haven't now institutions. You know, the institution of judiciary, how it is important, for example, for investment. If there is no justice, dependent justice, free justice in Tunisia, we will not have investment. So will not have job for young people. So this I think that this remark is very important for the.
What is the alternative?
The alternative
solution to
I think it's simple. The alternative. I think the alternative is in the decision of the African Court of Human and Human Rights. We say that the Tunisian government have to put on an end to the exceptional measures and return to constitutional democracy and respect the constitution. So the alternative is to return to the democracy, to the legitimacy, to the constitution of 2014.
And who mediates? The African Union?
Pardon?
Who mediates
mediates what?
this transition? Because normally the African Union, when they exclude a member because of a coup, right, they'll send in mediators that'll try to figure out the transition back to democracy. So are you recommending maybe the African Union play the mediation role?
يعني شكون اللي يسهل الحوار والانتقال؟
I think that now the opponents to the COP of 20 July are discussing to try to find an accord, an agreement to solve the country, because the country is in danger. It's a very dangerous situation, Tunisia. And I think that for the peace in the world, it's important for the international community to help Tunisia also, because you know Tunisia occupied a very important strategic position in Africa and in the Mediterranean Sea. So if Tunisia will go to the regime, despotic regime, you know, a despotic regime give in all country extremists, terrorism, and I think that this question is very important. That Tunisia, which was an example. I remember, for example, I was in Washington in 2013 during the campaign of the presidential election. I remember the speech, the speech of Obama in I think the end speech. 2012.
Obama was elected in 2012.
He consacrated a paragraph to speak about Tunisia as an example in Spring Arabic. So it's Tunisia. I think it's very important for the freedom world, for the Occidental world, and
especially for the Arab world.
And I think that during these 10 years, which was the transition, democratic transition, Tunisia hasn't benefited for help from the world the world free world. I remember, for example, Germany, the First World War, benefited of Plan Marshall to return to the democracy. France also was helped by the USA so Tunisia wasn't helped during this period of democratic transition. And I think it's a mistake from our friends also. So I think that the alternative is simple. It's to return to the democracy, to return to the constitutional, the legal constitution of 2014. And I think that we have to organize election under the law of before the law, which give us CSID, and the parties will have to return to their role in democratic system, in democratic regimes. And I think that the civil society in Tunisia is very developed and very conscious of the situation of their country. They have to help to go out this very difficult situation. Yes.
First, Aisha, thank you for the presentation. But I'm curious who you see leading this return, calling for this return to a constitutional democratic system. We've seen a few different opposition movements arise, both from political parties and civil society, but there isn't yet a unified opposition force that could represent the public. And you mentioned briefly that you're starting to see these opposition groups collaborate. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
We have in Tunisia, we have a special situation because after the revolution of 2011, the civil society discovered the democracy and went in the best way and the problem is they then don't find the born frontier between political and civil activity. So that's the problem now in Tunisia, I think. So I think that civil society parties have to make entente, agreement, to make an agreement to find the solution by negotiation, by dialogue, and to save the country.
But what about the divided opposition? You know, the opposition seems to be too fragmented and too divided to really impose, you know, on CSID, you know, a return to democracy or a return to the constitution. How do you see the future in the next, you know, month or 6 months?
I think that the position, if they go in their division, it will be suicidaire, opération suicidaire. So I think that they have to find together a solution to conduct the country to return to the democratic and to the constitutional.
But are you optimistic that they are able to do this?
I think.
هل تظن كذلك, do you think شو اسمه Ghazi Shawashi and Hamdi and others who left the Tayyar now, and today I think he announced that in January 14 that Ghazi Shawashi and others are going to have a they're going to suggest a way.
I think
for
that
all the opposition to come. Al-Ittihad also, yesterday, especially the statement that they wrote is very clear that they cut off any hope with the president. They're calling for a dialogue. Everybody's calling for a dialogue, but so.
Everybody's
Do you
calling,
think
but
these are
nobody's
signs?
responding.
Do you think these are signs? Maybe we're going to see some coalition into some kind of form of to answer the question. Or
I think that the situation now is that all body is calculated. No, but I think that that calculated is very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous, and we have to choose between democracy or despotic regime. So I think that our political are intelligent to understand this question. And you know, the problem, as you know, Moji is not Islamic Party. So for the you know, we have some influences and strange influences from some Gulf, some country of the Gulf. For example, the Emirates, for example, is doing a pressure to eliminate the Islamic Party. Or I think the Islamic Party give us a very civil constitution. This constitution of 27 January was given by two secular party and the Islamic Party, which give us.
And more importantly, it was adopted by almost unanimity, and 200 out of 217.
Which give us, for example, the state is the guardian of religion. It guarantees freedom of conscience and belief, and the free exercise of religious and the practice, and the neutrality of mosques and places of worship from all partisan instrumentalization. So this Islamic Party, Muslim Party, I say not Islamic, Muslim Party, give us a democratic regime, a democratic system, which is, as I say, model. Obama speaks.
That part of the Constitution of the US, it will probably be rejected. In Tunisia, it will probably be rejected by a big number of Americans. So
we have a couple more questions. Yes, please go ahead.
My question is, do you think, from your perspective, from your opinion, that the boycott now election is a solution for the situation in Tunisia? And the second question is, like, as you said, and as we know all in this room, that CSID is controlling everything, like all the powers in Tunisia. Why didn't he take the election, like, for example, to say we had like 90% of,
or even 30%.
Yeah. المقاطعة الآن هي شرح للوضعية التي تعيشها تونس الآن. ومن جهة أخرى، هل تظن أن إذا كنت تظن، وكلنا نعرف أنك تظن ذلك، أن CSID يسيطر على كل السلطات، لماذا لم يزور نتيجة الانتخابات؟ أعطيك مثالا بالنسبة للمغرب، في بلدنا المغرب دائما نعرف أن نسبة المشاركة في الانتخابات ستكون مثلا أكثر من 80%، أكثر من 90%، على الرغم من أن الشعب في منصات التواصل الاجتماعي، إذا سألت أي شخص في الشارع سيقول لك بأننا لا نشارك في الانتخابات، لا نريد هذه الانتخابات لأنها لن تأتي بحكومة جديدة، لن تتغير الأوضاع. So those are my two questions, and thank you so much.
So the first one is
The first one is like, هل المقاطعة حل؟
المقاطعة حل؟
لوضعية تونسيا.
ولماذا لم يقع تزييف النتائج الانتخابية؟
يعني هو سؤال أكيد. قيس سعيد isn't alone. He have some forces behind him, I think, because he's not so strong to do all this. So I think that we have to do pressure on these forces which are behind him to ask them to stop to support Qais Said, because he will leave the country to a catastrophic situation. So I think that the most dangerous thing is that Tunisia go to a civil war. It's not the interest of our friends, I think, in the democratic world, that Tunisia go to the civil war, because it will have a consequence about the security and the stability in the not only in the region, but even in the not only in Tunisia, but even in all the region, and in Africa and Europe. You know, Tunisia is near the Sea of Mediterranean, is near Europe. So I think that all democratic, all whom believe in value of freedom and democracy, to work together to help Tunisia, to help the country to resolve this problem, which is Qais Said.
My question, going back to your discussion about the opposition potentially having more unity to move back to the original constitutional process, it's quite optimistic. I think we all agree. I guess my question is, for the Tunisian people, what is the guarantee that it won't be politics as usual, that the guardrails of the Constitution that were never fully realized, Constitutional Court, those pieces that have sort of allowed us to get where we are, what guarantee is there to them that this will not happen again, or that
Sure.
things will be different?
Sure.
And hopefully
I think which will guarantee this, if all body is agree with this. I think that we have enough experience, because now Tunisian have enough experience in democracy and in exercise of democracy to succeed in this new transition, new democratic transition.
Okay, so we have a couple of questions from people who are joining us on Zoom. Focusing on the future, since Qais Said has a certain degree of popular support, and that there was very little resistance and pushback so far to his moves, what are the scenarios for bringing the country back to democratic track? يعني المعارضة إلى حد الآن ما زالت ضعيفة، وما فماش يعني رد فعل شعبي كبير. What are the scenarios? ما هي الطريقة أو ما هي الطرق؟
هو احنا we don't like that we go to a violent reaction from the people. I think that we have to work to succeed the change of the system of Qais Said peacefully, without violence. That's why we launch an appeal to all the democratic people, to all who believe as I said, in the value of democracy to not arrive to violence to change the situation, because it's not in the benefit of anyone.
Have a question?
Third. So the US has had a series of statements and reactions going all the way back to July 2022. Sometimes they're more critical, sometimes they're less critical. Recently, they were very uncritical. The US said that the elections were an essential initial step in the return to democracy. The US called for the Constitutional Court to be established, which I don't know if that's part of the project. And
Which
it
means
called-
that he will establish
Yeah.
the
And then he called for a bunch of things that isn't in this project. So when Tunisians see these statements, how do they react? People you know, judicial, the people who are involved in politics, how do they react when they see these statements?
التصريحات الأخيرة.
I think it's a political declaration, because all body know that it's not, this election is not a step for the return to the democratic system. So it's strange, as I think it's strange as a declaration from the foreign office of US, and I haven't to comment. I am in Washington, and
No, don't worry, you can comment.
it's not because it's strange as. Sincerely, it's strange as a
We'll have
declaration.
Shadow Kilani commentary, like Shadow Obama. But yeah, we found it strange too. But my question, you started to answer, but people in Tunisia, when they see that, they just say it's strange. They say it's political. How do they react to the U.S. statements? Does it dissuade them from going out to protest? Does it give them less of a reason to protest?
No, the people in Tunisia don't give importance to this declaration. I think that the elite, the intelligentsia, whom are following this declaration, but Tunisian people, I think that they have others problems, as I said, economic, social problems, and they have they are waiting from CSID after his coup that he improved their life, their conditions of life, their social condition, economic condition, but he doesn't succeed. So now Tunisian citizen, are sure that CSID will not resolve their problems. So that's why he said him, stop, that's enough. And the message, I think, is that CSID, you have to leave now.
Will we see 50,000 Tunisians in the streets?
Manji, final question.
And then a question which we ask every politician or human rights leader or comes to the US, we always ask, what do you want the US to do? Of course, we talked about the dialogue, we talked about how there's an attempt to at least have a common ask, and the opposition is asking CSID to leave, and then we hold an election, and maybe the guarantees that Jeff was talking about are extremely important, I think. And I appreciated maybe the Carter Center, among its first recommendations, is to establish the Constitutional Court, because that kind of at least.
But it should not be established by CSID.
I agree, but at least the idea of having a constitutional court present in this process is important. It gives guarantees to the process that we will end up with at least a legitimate body that will govern. Obviously, when we talk about muraja'at, people that have to, rethink their strategy and maybe, make adjustments, everybody is asked to do that. Mainly the main political parties who were in power before, Nahda, Nida, and whatever left, if Nida, Tayyar and others. Not sure if Abir Musi is willing to do any muraja'at. But these are important political parties, and still important. They need to also make sure that they reassure the Tunisian people that things are not going to go back to as bad as it was before. But I think also other entities that played an important role in Tunisia need to also rethink and reevaluate what happened and what they have done, and could they do something better. I heard Senator Chris Murphy said that we Americans, at least he's speaking from the Congress perspective, that they do see the point you made that Tunisia did not get as much help as it needed to avoid the big crisis that it went through. He said we as Americans maybe do also share some of that blame, that we did not step up to a bigger degree, especially in the economic front. I personally think also NGOs, international NGOs, also have an evaluation, and they need to look at the investment they made, which is a huge investment in terms of people, in terms of money, in terms of resources. They did invest a lot in Tunisia, but what did we get? Are we at the level that we are satisfied with what we have created or helped create in Tunisia? I've seen some organizations stepped up and they spoke and they kind of played the role of an NGO that defends democracy and at least voice their opinion about what is happening and be frank and truthful. I also saw some other NGOs who our taxpayer money spent millions of dollars on them, and unfortunately they either stayed silent or some of their leadership in private actually were egging on and helping CSID to go after MPs and to go after lawyers and to go after politicians and judges. Those are facts. They supported the coup. So we have also a role to look at all of this and evaluate it and say, what could we have done better? What are the investments that worked? What are the investments that did not work?
What went right and what
went right and what went wrong? I think we all have the responsibility to do that. So I go back to my question. What would you like the US to do, whether it's NGOs or the government or Congress? What do you see a role? Do you see a role for the US to play, especially now at this juncture?
What is the role of the US and can the US help? And any final comments?
First, as I do the remark before you come, I think that my speech does not be interpreted as an appeal to intervene in our domestic problems. But I think that traditionally Tunisia has a relation, a good relation, friendly relation with the US. And I think that the appeal which I launched is that as you in US, you believe in the value of democracy, of freedom, let us also defend as you this value. How? I think the question how don't support a despotic man. Don't support a man who now put all the powers under his hand. A man who don't believe in dialogue, in consultation. A man who now try to put all body in prison. No, his project, when he dissolved the judiciary, the high council judiciary, and when he dismissed 57 judges without any contradiction, without any defense. It's very dangerous for the value which you defend. I think that is the problem. It is the problem, and we are fighting now with legal procedure. I think that this judgment, which is rendered by the African Court on Human and People Rights, is an example. So we have, I think that this is the role, and this is the demand which asked to our friend in the US.
Any final comments? What do you think will happen on January 14, the anniversary of the revolution?
Only good, only good. But I wish that that our country doesn't go to the violence. It's the most dangerous thing, you know, as the economics, the social situation is very bad, and as there is